Oh my god, guys, are you like actually so excited? Because I'm here to do a book review, right? And I can't keep up to date with anything in my life. So to me, a book review is so shocking. And I'm so excited to talk about 4 Dead Queens by Asterix Schulte. And I loved this book. This may potentially be my favorite book of the year. And I haven't even gotten to the end of the year. Like, we still have 6 more months. But at the moment, it probably is. And I totally recommend people read this if you have not. And I did read this book 2 months ago. And I'm only bringing you my feelings now. But I have just had a lot going on and too many video ideas to film, so to get to my book reviews has been really hard for me lately, but I'm excited to finally be filming one. This book review is going to have spoilers in it because there is quite a few things I want to talk about with the queens, and like, I love the queens so much, and this was such an interesting story, and I was really excited to finally talk about it. So as you can probably tell, I really did love this book, but I loved how intriguing it was because I just decided to pick it up and start reading it, and I literally read 70 pages and then I read another 100 the next day, and I got it done in 4 days. And at the time that was really good because I was just not reading, but most of the time I'm not really reading. I wasn't really sure what I was expecting with this book though, because I did read the synopsis, but I guess it just didn't click with me. So then when I did read this book, I was just getting shocked by everything, and like, I thought all the queens were gonna die like in the first page or before the book started, but then they actually died kind of later on in the book, and it happened just like one by one, not like over a time kind of thing. And every time I just got really excited because I just wanted to know more about this mystery, and I also liked knowing about the main characters and just trying to figure out what was actually going on. And like, the world of this book was like actually really easy to understand, and I really enjoyed how it like interconnected and really worked. I always find that if you have a world system that just doesn't make sense, it makes reading so much harder. But I liked that there was 4 different quadrants in this world, and each quadrant had a queen, and then all these 4 queens stayed in the castle and they weren't allowed to leave, and they were all a queen over something different. Like, one of them's kind of like a farmer queen, one of them's like an arts and fashion queen, one is the science and technological queen, and other ones are like traders, I think. Because they all have different values and opinions, they can rule the world really well together, and they really do work through with each other with all the different situations that they go through. They all started to become like family. And something else too is I expected this to just be like fully high fantasy, but no, it was sci-fi as well. Like, they're in a fantasy setting, but then boom, they've got tablets and chips and like trains, and I was like, whoa, was not expecting that. And it was a weird meshing of the stories, but I really liked it. And for the fact that this was only a standalone, it's a lot of book to fit into one, but I definitely think for the fact that this was like a one-time murder mystery, it really worked having it as a standalone. But I mean, we're never going to know if it would have worked as a duology or a trilogy or a series. Like, they could have kept it going, but I did really think like it worked well, and it was actually really interesting to have a fantasy as a standalone. So I think her name is Carolee, or is it Caroline, because I just don't know how to pronounce names anymore because my last couple of reviews I'm just like peh. But I thought she was very fun, and I liked her jokes and her humor, and like, her parents wanted her to help them with the family business, like she was running a boat, and but Carolee's like, no, I'm just gonna go steal things, and she leaves her home, and they always wanted her to stay with them and not to go off and steal things. But then an accident happens with her father and he gets hurt, so she runs away and she hasn't been home since. And she's been best friends with Mackle, who is like this crime boss, and they've been friends since they were kids, so she goes and lives with him and she helps steal for him, and she gets a profit for him, and then they auction off stuff, and it's all shady shit. But like, when the main character's doing the shady shit, we're like, woo! But anyway, coming to the start of the story, Mackle ends up getting Carolee to steal some comm chips from a messenger, but after she steals them, stuff starts getting really weird, and then the messenger finds her, and then they get the chips back, but then Mackle sort of suddenly changes and tries to kill her, and she's on the run now with these chips. And for some reason, when you have these chips, you've got to swallow them, and then you see the memories on them, and what she sees is how each queen died. And now she has to race to get to the palace because all the queens have died, and she's got to get this information, and they're trying to figure out like who the murderer is, and everyone's trying to kill her, and she's stuck with the messenger, and yeah, it's just a race for her life basically. So Varren, the messenger, was my absolute favorite. He was my like babe. I loved him. So he was an ionist, and that is the techie quadrant, but another part of that quadrant is they make sure that people don't have emotions. Like, they really try to stem it out of children to not feel any type of emotion, because that way they can have a right frame of mind to do their technological advancements. And this is the exact reason why I loved Varren so much, because he's too precious, because he doesn't know how to feel in any situation, and he's always been a little bit different because he's always had like kindlings of little baby feelings. And once he meets Caroline, inside that starts to explode out of him. And the sad thing too is he's always like drawing, and he wanted to be an artist, but he's gonna go blind by the time he turns 30. And another thing that they do is if you aren't useful anymore, they kill you. So his death date is when he turns 30, and I think he was like 20 or 19 in the book, and he just accepts that. He's just like, yeah, I mean, like, that's how long I get to live, which is sort of really sad, because this is an issue that people were bringing up when they were reading the book, is that like you're basically getting killed for having a disability. And I do understand why that is so wrong, but I mean, it's just the way they did it. Like, it's not like it's our world now, and in this like fantasy setting, it's just what happened. And obviously like they all think it's wrong, but it's just how it is, you know, like there wasn't much they could do to fix it. But it was a really nice build of his character, that he's just started to see the world in a different way, and because he met Caroline, he started to want things, and he just realized he wanted to live and not live how he was living now. And just saying, I did love the relationship between Caroline and Varen that grew, but then by the end of the book I realized it'd only been like a week, so very much insta love, but it was still so cute. But I still think they really did fit together, and I really did love how much Caroline scandalized him by like showing off a bit of skin, because like, again, his people are very conservative, but Varen definitely deserves to have some love and happiness in his life. So now obviously we get to talk about my favorite part of this book, and that is the queens. And I actually really was shocked that they had such a big part in the book. Like, I thought they'd only be named, but they all had point of views, and we were alternating between a queen's point of view and Caroline's point of view and Varen's point of view. So like there's a lot of point of view changes, but I never found it confusing. But I loved really being in the mind of each one of them and getting a lot more of their opinion. And like most of them were alive for a lot of the book. And another thing I loved about the queens is they all had a very important secret that they've been keeping for most of their lives, and they all just felt like real people. So Iris was the first queen to die, and she was the one we were with Lee, but she definitely started my intrigue towards this book and the characters. She was definitely a very stubborn and strong-headed person, and she seemed like she would take no shit from no bitches, and I really liked Iris, but she did die quite early on, so we didn't get as much from her, but we did learn about her later on in the book, about a few different things about her life. So Stessa was the next queen to die, and she was only 16 years old. With the queens, they all have to make sure they have one child who is a female. Females are the only ones that are allowed to be in control of the people. Once they have that baby's then shift off to the quadrant and raised there until their mum dies, and then that baby becomes the new queen. They never have a relationship with their mothers, and they just get like uplifted and chucked into the palace, and then they're never allowed to leave. So really the queens have a pretty shit life. So she was still basically a child, but she was very out there and passionate, and like love was so important to her. And that's another thing, the queens are not allowed to have love. Like, they only need a man to make sure they have a baby, but they are not allowed to have romantic relationships. I feel like I should have mentioned this before, and I'm like, the world was so easy to understand, but then there's all these rules. But Stessa really stuffed that up, because she's in a romantic relationship with her advisor, Leica, and she only made him her advisor so he would come over with her, and then they can have the sexy times. And she also like poisoned her old advisor to make sure that he would not be her advisor anymore. Secret semi, she poisoned someone to make sure her boyfriend could be there with her. Well, she shouldn't have had a boyfriend and shouldn't have been poisoning people. So Cora was the next queen to die, and she was my favorite. I actually loved her so much, and she was just boss. So she was the Ironist queen, and her secret is that she actually never ended up leaving the palace when she was born. Her mother ended up loving her too much, and because Cora didn't go off and live with the Innis people, never became this emotionless person. So she feels so much, but she has to hide it all the time, and she has to act like she was there, and she had a relationship with her mother. So that is a secret that she's been hiding for so long, because she has never left the palace. She's been there her whole life, and she only ever saw her quadrant when she had to go there, but when her mother died, so that she could act like she just turned up, you know. And coming back to Iris, with her secret is Cora and Iris had a romantic relationship, and I love that. They've been hiding their relationship for like 20 years or something. Like, it's been a long time. So this is really hard for Cora, because she is grieving the loss of her partner, but she can't show that emotion because no one knows about the relationship, and she also shouldn't feel things. And then Margaret was the last queen, and Margaret's secret was that she had a baby girl, and she didn't want that baby to be forced to rule in the kingdom, so she told everyone that she lost her child, and she sent her away with one of her ladies' maids to keep her child safe, and she has never met her child, and she's always thinking about them. And I was totally on on board for the idea of Caroline being this baby, and like she got put with her parents, and because she was thieving, they're just like, you can't be thieving, you're meant to be a queen. But it didn't happen, and I was actually pretty excited, but also really sad, because I'm like, oh, it really should have been Caroline. But then it was like, oh, you know, it actually really makes sense not to make the main character like the hidden princess character. Anyway, coming back to Caroline and Varen, they finally get to the palace to kind of question everyone about why the queens have died, and then they turn up and see that they aren't dead. So what they actually saw was the plans for the queens that are getting murdered, and then at that point I'm thinking, oh my god, what's happening? And this is also the time that Arabella comes into the story, and she's Margaret's daughter, and she's realized that she's the daughter of one of the queens, and of course we need this resentful little bitch. She wants all the queens dead, she wants to be the only ruler, and she just wants to pretty much put the world into the ground by ruling how she thinks is right when it is obviously totally wrong. And to add a little bit of fire to the spark here, she is in a romantic relationship with Mackerel because they have been friends for years. So like, this is the thing that I really liked about this book, is just one after another we kept having these plot bombs dropped on us, and it was just like, holy shit, like all the queens have died and they all have these secrets, and then holy shit, her daughter's alive, and then holy shit, Caroline is the assassin. Like, I never expected the main character to be the killer. So shocked, and I didn't even know how to feel about this. When she swallowed the comm chips, they actually had something in that put her under mind control. What she saw was the way she was meant to kill them, and then so every time she was kind of away from the scene a bit, and she'd come back and she was covered in a bit of blood, or she was covered in water, and Varen was kind of sitting here like, okay, what is going on? And then they find like the murder weapon is her bracelet, and she's got all this shit to kill them, and it was so like, oh my god, because she's sitting there like, I didn't do it, and I'm like, what's happening? I was so shocked, and then Varen thought it happened, but then they got this detective dude, and she's just like, hey, I didn't do it, and he always believed her, and I'm like, yes, you go, dude, you go, you're the winner of this like thing to help save everyone. And so Arabella's like about to be crowned, and everyone's trying to find heirs in any spot, whatever, in the family. So she kind of like, she's like this like 17-year-old little baby girl kind of thing, and she's just all drama like, I want to be queen of the world, and like they wouldn't let her, but then it ended up happening where it was like they were about to crown her. Caroline comes in and she's all like, yo, you made me kill everyone, and everyone's like, oh, and she's just like, how dare you? And then Margaret just bomb drops in, and it's like, whoa, shit, she didn't die. And she confronts her daughter, and she is so pissed off because she got poisoned, but then they were able to save her, but then they pretended she died so that they could see what was actually going to come around with this like murder plot. And I was so shocked. I didn't expect one of them to survive, and I was like, oh, I was so keen. And now Margaret's going to be the queen of Cadera, and I'm so excited because I feel like she's going to be like a boss queen, and she will rule the people really kindly. But I just loved this book so much, and it was really the plot reveals that really got me, because every time it was just like, holy shit, didn't see that coming. But I'm pretty excited to see what else Astrid Schultz is going to write, and she's an Australian author, and I'm glad this got quite a lot of buzz because us Aussies love it when our books get like talked about. But I just had so much fun with this book, and it was such an experience, and definitely think it's going to be on that top 15 list of the year. But anyway guys, thanks for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!